So last month we talked about monsters that never made it into Power Rangers in space, and continuing that space tradition is another space-themed Power Rangers season, Lost Galaxy. Now I love Lost Galaxy. Growing up it was one of my favourite seasons, but recently I watched its Sentai counterpart, Seiju Sentai Gingaman. Now I had heard of Gingaman and what it's about, but I'd never really checked it out for myself. All I knew was it was a nature-themed Sentai, but after watching the Sentai, it wasn't what I was expecting. When I first heard about Gingaman being a nature-themed Sentai, I was expecting rangers swinging from trees using flower power, but that wasn't really the case. What I got was Knights of the Forest up against evil space alien pirates trying to resurrect a demon. Now several elements from Gingaman were adapted into Lost Galaxy. You had the brother falling into a pit and becoming a vengeful warrior, the forest turning into a terrible Photoshop effect, and you had magical lights granting magical powers. Now one thing I found fascinating going into Gingaman and at the end of my Mega Ranger watch through is the character Furio, because the character Furio isn't in Gingaman at all. The costume used for Furio is the final boss in Mega Ranger, so they reused the costume from Mega Ranger and placed it in Lost Galaxy, which isn't uncommon when it comes to Power Rangers and reusing costumes from other seasons. The character Cosmo Royal was used from the train Sentai Tokuja. So why did we get a totally different villain from a totally different Sentai? Well, there's kind of a reason for that, and from what I've heard, because at the time of Lost Galaxy's filming / production, Gingaman vs Mega Ranger the movie was being filmed, which had several villains from the show returning, making some of the important costumes unavailable to use. So characters like Kegler and Villamax, who appeared in the second half of Lost Galaxy, were actually there from the very beginning of Gingaman. This is probably why we got Trakina and Scorpius, which I'm not complaining about because they're amazing characters. So if you want to check out this Super Sentai series for yourself, you can by going to Shout Factory's website or buying the official DVD set released by Shout Factory. I highly recommend checking out Gingaman and giving it a watch. I heard not a lot of people are fond of it, but when I watched it for the first time, I really enjoyed it. And maybe I'll do a separate review talking about Gingaman later down the line. We'll see what happens. But with that out of the way, let's talk about monsters that never made it into Power Rangers, and once again, special thanks to Ranger Wiki for having this info on their website for me to use in this video. First up is Regaigo. Now this is one of the earlier monsters that appeared in Gingaman, and it's an episode that had a lot of human footage. Now when Power Rangers has this problem, they'll either drop the episode depending on the source material, or if they're able to use the monster costume and film their own footage, they'll do that. Unfortunately, Saban didn't have access to the costumes, so they couldn't really film their own footage, so the monster was dropped from being adapted. The late 90s saw the boom of East meets West. No, not that one. I mean anime. Stuff like Dragon Ball Z, Pokemon, Sailor Moon, and other anime titles were being brought over and being adapted. Usually, some of these shows were very Japanesey and had to be Americanized for the kids, which is why we got stuff like this.
These donuts are great! Jelly-filled are my favorite!
So characters like Amamoshi might have had some problems being adapted. This character was a Biwa player and had Shinto-like rituals, so things like that are very cultural in Japan. Now we did get characters like Samurai Fanman and MMPR, but I guess they could get away with it because he's more of a warrior and Amoshi is more of a priest, so I can kind of see why they skipped him. Speaking of cultural things, next up is Gara Gara, I think I'm saying that right. According to Ranger Wiki, this monster was skipped because of its uncomfortable Hindu stereotype, and looking at its monster form, I can see why. Next up on the list is Bammers. Now, Bammers is a giant monster with a hammer. Hey, it's a pun, I get that. And this guy was skipped because he was brutally mauled and shooting real bullets. And shooting real weapons has been a big no-no in this series, so unfortunately, Bammers got the hammer. Alright, so this one's interesting. This is going to be a fun story, because there's actually backstory behind this monster being skipped. So, this monster is called Chainsaws. Funny enough, this monster actually had planned on being used. The episode was called Forging the Friendship, and it was when Cassie would take the role as Lost Galaxy Pink, but unfortunately due to behind the scenes stuff, this episode never saw the light of day. I believe there is a script for this episode floating around online, and if you're able to find it you can actually read it, but like I said, because of behind the scenes stuff, Cassie never became Lost Galaxy Pink. But if you want me to make a video on that stuff, how Cassie almost became Lost Galaxy Pink, tell me in the comment section down below and I'll cover it in a future video. Now last on the list is Bazooka. This monster once again used real bullets, and like I mentioned earlier, that is a big no-no on television when it comes to children programming. So Beluga got the boot, and that's all the monsters that never made it into Power Rangers Lost Galaxy. Now, there's one more, but it's a movie exclusive villain talking about Gingaman vs Mega Ranger that I talked about earlier, and that is Captain Gregory. And Captain Gregory was an old friend of Captain Zahab, who was Captain Mutiny in Power Rangers Lost Galaxy. And this was a movie exclusive character. I'm sure if Saban had the suit lying around they might have used it, but this guy was skipped. And that's all the villains that never made it into Power Rangers Lost Galaxy through its Sentai counterpart Gingaman. What do you guys think of the monsters that never made the cutting room floor? And are you going to check out Gingaman for yourself and give it a watch? Because I highly recommend watching this Sentai. So, with that said, I'm bringing this video to a close. If you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and don't forget to turn on notifications. Special thanks to all the members such as Swagger4 and Andrew McCoyle. If you want to get your name shouted out like these guys over here, join the Patreon or become a YouTube member for special perks on the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time where we cover Lightspeed Rescue and Go-Go 5.